The cry for change keeps getting louder and louder in our world. And we always look to someone else to create that change. On a global level, we look to those who are in leadership roles to be change makers. But also in our personal lives, we look outside at the people around us or our situations, waiting for those to change so there can be a change in my life. But perhaps the most powerful place for change to begin is within myself. It might be the only place change can begin for my own life. Rather than going outside, I come inside. I observe honestly that more often than not, I have the same responses to situations and expect something different to happen. To truly be a change maker, I will have to respond differently. When things happen outside, I reflect on how they affect me, how sensitive I am to the scenes unfolding and interactions I engage in. I am reactive, or some might say unstable, deeply influenced by what happens around me. And so nothing changes. But when I go inside to a very silent place, quiet place inside, I start to awaken the enormous capacities of the human spirit, the depth of the self, only found in that inner silence, like treasures underground. Such a profound capacity to remain calm, clear, cool, and creative. If I am connected to these capacities when in different scenes and situations, I will most certainly respond in a new way. And at that moment, I will be a change maker in my own life. Om Shanti.
Shanti, good evening. Welcome to Interview with the Raj Yogi. And tonight's topic is be a change maker. So, listening to the reflection, I was thinking about being constant internally and even for souls in the world who are struggling on a day-to-day life, managing things around them, they certainly want something constant. Maybe they don't use that word. Perhaps maybe if we could explore how being constant inside is possible. I was mentioned in the reflection about staying calm.
Shanti. Yeah, I think definitely, everyone in the world seeks security and that sense that everything's going to be okay and really looking for an anchor. And we tend to look outside for something constant or reliable. And unfortunately, there is a bit of a drawback to that because everything out there is temporal, constantly changing. So ultimately, I'm going to have to look inside to see if I can cultivate something grounded, constant, reliable. And I think that's where spirituality can really excel because it talks to what is constant or eternal. And if I can develop a very deep relationship with what is constant, eternal, always present in myself, I can begin to rely on myself. And things will fluctuate more and more in the world. I think we all can see that. So it becomes more and more important to develop that sense of constancy or reliability, that I feel secure within myself, and that I can actually develop an inner stock of what creates that security, which is the peace, the comfort, even the power, the integrity. Create a stock of that so that I know that I can respond consistently to whatever comes up. That's always fascinated me when I'm watching, say, a tennis match. This was always fascinating to me because the game has changed so much. And you're probably all wondering why I'm talking about tennis. But the game has changed so much. And, I remember when the Williams sisters came on the scene and they changed it completely because they were so powerful. And I used to think, there is no way I'd want to be at the receiving end of one of their serves. How do you possibly respond to that without running the other direction? But I realized that the person they're playing against has to be equally powerful and ready, just constantly ready and powerful, have a stock of power. And I'd watch them be able to respond to those serves. So life is going to serve us all sorts of things. I need to cultivate a stock of what is constant within the self.
Could you share a bit more on what that means, what that feels like when you say build a stock? Because when you first shared about this is where spirituality is important. Maybe just because of listening to a lot of questions that comes up in the Raj Yoga course, souls seem to try to take that and become just think a certain way. Okay, talk to myself a certain way, but feeling from when you're talking about building a stock, that's not what you're talking about.
So if I was physically building a stock of something for preparing for disasters, I would have a sense of where I need to shop to get what I'm looking for. So I'm aware of what I'm looking for. And then I figure out where I need to shop. I know where I need to go to get what I'm looking for physical security. When it comes to these spiritual resources, again, I need to know what I'm looking for. So the things that do make me feel comfortable, is that calm? Is that peace? Is that truth? Is that clarity? So I know when I at least be able to know what I want to accumulate. Now I need to know where to go and shop for it. And that's when I have to start to develop a relationship with silence. It's actually not intellectual or thinking a lot, it's feeling, being able to connect to that reservoir where spiritual treasures are very rich. And that is silence or beyond or eternal. And to have a spiritual methodology, knowing exactly how to move into that silence.
Being in the study for quite some time now, what do you feel is the crux to be able to understand silence? Because souls could be hearing the word silence and don't even know what that really means. There's also souls who have been in the study for a while, they still grapple with silence. So you shared a bit about the eternal. What is the crux in terms of establishing a healthy relationship with it when there's a lot of other ideas we may have inside?
We have developed such a profound relationship with physicality that we try and understand everything through a physical lens. So, understandably, when we use the word silence, all we can think is physical silence. So, there's no sound, nothing going on to disturb the physical senses, dead, empty, all these physical kind of ideas of silence. But of course, we're talking about something that's spiritual and very full. So, the first thing I'm going to have to do in this methodology is move into a spiritual realm or spiritual state of being, if you will. So, again, I am a spiritual being. So, that's sort of the first step. And really exploring what the significance is of saying, I'm a spiritual being. Ultimately, the silence is a state where there is not any sound of the temporal, and there's only the experience or sound of what is eternal. That's ultimately what, so it's very rich, it's very full, it's just empty of physicality, but very full of spirituality, which is what is eternal. My eternal identity, my eternal anchor, who I eternally belong to, my eternal nature, all of these constants that, yes, they became merged. So you might challenge in saying they're eternal, but they're simply merged, but they're still there. Just like as we sit here now, we're not thinking about it, but the physical heart has been beating. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not connected to it. Doesn't mean it's not there. So we may not be aware or awakened to these things, but they're still there, which is a very hopeful thing to know that I just have to give them some attention, have awareness.
So when you share about emerging, could you share about, because when you mention about that, it's within us, how does timing play a role then? And are there certain conditions that help to increase the capacity for it to emerge?
So I think both of those, it has to be an individual's timing. They have to feel a pull or an interest in doing this. But also, so that's the pull, but there's also a push. And things that seem very adverse externally are actually a blessing in disguise. They are a push to make us stop just going along, but actually wake up like, what am I doing? So when adverse situations or, moments happen, they kind of stop us in our tracks and like, oh, okay, what am I actually doing? What's going on? So wake up calls can push us in the drama as well.
When you talked about it just emerging something in myself and I'm learning some aspects of who I am, could I just be sitting and you call it meditation or walking, moving around, and I'm trying to have these thoughts, and one, it could just sort of just be a bunch of just rote thoughts going on, or how do I know what I'm doing? Am I repeating what I'm learning? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on?
perhaps given the way we function now, a lot of our basic skills have been slightly undermined. So I always am entertained when we go into the grocery store and an odd thing happens. We're going to pay by cash. And I'm told the amount I need to pay. And I'm thinking, okay, I have this in the wallet. I'd like to get this amount of change back. So this is what I'll give the cashier. So I give the money and they look at me like they're not sure what to do with it because it requires doing math in their head. And these are becoming lost arts, our mental capacities, the capacity to coherently string together a series of thoughts is seriously undermined by our multimedia bombardment. Our attention spans are seriously undermined because for the meditation, I will need to string together a series of coherent thoughts. And some will say it's concentration. Not really. I mean, I'm doing something I'm interested in. I literally, but it's just rusty. It's not lost. So I'll have to be very patient while I get back this art of being able on my own to create a meditation experience. It doesn't have to be clever. It doesn't have to be esoteric. It doesn't have to be intellectual. It just has to be coherent because I want to be able to hold myself in a thought until I feel it. And if I'm jumping around and I'm not sure what to think next, it will be a challenge. And one method that's very helpful is question and answer. So ask myself a question and then let the answer bubble up, and then the next question. So like an interview. Okay, I'm a soul. What does that mean to be a soul? What does that feel like? What is the significance or impact of saying I'm a soul? So I start to ask these questions, and they help me to string together some thoughts.
When you were sharing about to be able to develop these stocks, these capacities of experiencing who I am, this is a sensitive question for some, the peace that some feel, maybe not all, some feel when they go to sunsets and the mountains by the ocean, would you equate that as being the same in terms of what I'm trying to experience here? Can I develop a stock that way?
Yeah, there's a lot of debate on that one, isn't there? What it might suggest is, all right, I have capacity or receptors inside to feel peace. So I can trigger those receptors from an external stimuli, or I can trigger them by simply aligning myself a certain way so that they naturally come out. Um, Obviously, there's drawbacks. There's a problem if I'm dependent on external stimuli to feel peaceful, because then that means, okay, I can't feel peaceful unless that stimuli is there. It would be much better if it's based on some kind of inner dynamic so that it's with me wherever I go. Is it the same? It's hard to tell. I suppose it depends on the individual, what's going on. But what it does say is that we do have a capacity to feel it. And under the right circumstances, it comes out. But I would love those circumstances to be independent of stimuli outside. Otherwise, I'll be very dependent on I've got to be in the mountains, or it has to be certain music or lighting. We literally do have souls who say, I can't meditate when that music's on or when those lights are on. Or so trying to become free of all that, because then we're back to being more consistent or reliable.
I was just thinking about then back to this topic of being a change maker. We're talking about constancy, we're talking about developing an inner stock. Then would you say that it's quite invisible then? And oftentimes souls come to the door and there's a tug of war inside that I want to see results now. And could you share about that tug of war that goes on inside? And is it, again, timing? Is it the push and pull forces that are going on inside? Because there's been quite a few souls lately. It's like, I got to go back now. I've had a powerful experience at this retreat, been a powerful experience being at the center. Now I'm going back to my own situation, and the tug of war is very strong.
I think it's very important, and it's not to frighten anyone, it's to set souls up for success, to know that there's going to be a tug of war. And that's the case with any change. Working at a gym, and people come in and decide they're going to do a lifestyle change, they experience a tug of war. And sadly, they don't even know that's what they're experiencing. So it's amazing that we would sabotage ourselves, but it's just that resistance or fear of change. So it's very good to know that that's going to happen so that I'm not surprised or blindsided when things come up. I can say, okay, yes, this is the tug of war. Obviously, what we want to do is not have it be a one-sided tug of war. So I have to start to weight the side that I would ideally like things to move towards. And that's where things like structure and support and resources and certain disciplines and practices can be very, very helpful. I know, again, the status quo won't like them and will come up with very good reasons why I shouldn't do them. I need to know that's going to happen. So, very good to know ahead of time what will happen. But if it is my time and my interest is profound enough, then I will continue despite the resistance.
Perhaps one more last question is, I know we always put you on the spot. If you can think of a personal experience where you felt that constancy that has developed inside you, you felt that you've maybe not like coming to a situation, oh yes, I've built up an inner stock, but just seeing yourself that your response has changed in a situation where it's like, wow, I didn't realize I have been accumulating something where my response, I'm not even thinking about it, but something has changed, that my response is very different than what I expected.
Yeah, just recently had a situation, very lovely, long, long, long standing dynamic my entire life with this soul. And the dynamic had been very deep, that they would act a certain way and it would immediately trigger a certain reaction within me. But I knew it was really important that I respond differently for their sake. And so I remember, again, I could feel that they were moving into this place, which isn't really them. And really to be able, some call it facing, but to be able to respond differently, to change the dynamic. And it was really interesting to feel my own self, very what we call integrity. And it wasn't conflict, it wasn't any of this thing. It was simply responding from that stock. So I can stay true to myself while still being very respectful of that soul. So definitely, I think we have these situations come up again, which might seem like they're a problem, but they actually are opportunities to assess, what have I accumulated and see, yes, I have accumulated.
Well, thank you, Judy. That's promising. Anything that inspires souls, practice, practice, practice. So we have many sessions to practice. And so I'll have a little reflection.
We enjoy going into spaces that we call sanctuaries or even just meditation rooms, places where we can be with ourselves, connect to our inner resources, feel more calm, more peaceful, more clear. But those spaces are not always available to us. But there is a space inside that I carry with me everywhere. My own inner sanctuary, my own inner meditation room. I can go there anytime, in a second. I can go there now, like a tortoise withdrawing. Feel myself receding inside, deeply inside, to a very quiet, simple, calm place where I have 100% of my own attention, not even really aware of this body, completely absorbed inside. And it does feel like the eye of a storm. All sorts of things can be swirling around in the rest of my inner world. But this place I'm here now is so calm, so quiet, and its stillness, its simplicity is its power, very soft power. And when I'm in this space, I not only feel completely myself, so real, but I also feel very stable. I feel empowered. I can come here anytime when I don't know what else to do. I can come here and my capacities will be awakened. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you. Very lovely. If anything that inspires, that's I was just about to talk about the drop-in sessions before reflection, so I can talk about them now. The drop-in sessions we have on site at the Inner Peace Center. Mondays and Fridays in English on at 6:30 to 7:30, and Hindi on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We also have a once a month drop in Learn About Meditation at the Academy. So that is on July 27th. That's on the Saturday, 12:15 to 1:30. I was looking at you because I can't remember the time. Also save the date for Rakhi, so Raksha Bandhan. The public program is happening on Friday, August 9th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., I believe. And registration is, I believe, already up. If it's not, send an email to the center. But we did send that email out to the public distribution list. And so, of course, we also have evening meditation, 6:30 to 7:30 through YouTube. And so that's every day, 7 days a week. So any questions, please let us know, but experience, experience, experience. Thank you. Shanti.